The gun is not the answer. You are. The gun is a tool in a toolbox of tactics, techniques, and practices for protecting and providing life. Trump is not the answer. We are. Trump saw our political dissatisfaction and rallied to us. We rewarded his hard work and dedication with 2 presidential wins. We gave him the presidency, but Israel gave him a Torah crown, reserved for the Messiah. Trump is not the Messiah. Yeshua is. But Likud Israelis say Trump is, not Jesus. American Christian Zionists fund the Third Temple while trashing their own tabernacle with burgers, beer, and bioweapons. Trump is Israel, not America first. He covers for Mossad agent Epstein's child rape list. He concurs with IDF's Gaza genocide and rape. Bibi brags that when he says bomb, Trump drops. Like a wimpy wife who ignores a daughter-abusing dad to preserve a marriage lie. As Fox, Newsmax, and CNN refuse to show pedo Joe fondling children, MAGA cultists refuse to see the terrible truth of Trump. He may be Israel's, but he is not our savior. They may have Trump, but they do not have us. God has a plan. Us. Rape born, orphan adopted, blessed bastard, ex-soldier, special agent, spy, tyrant targeted, slave state slandered, turned whistleblower, warrior, sabotage sharpened, corruption crucibled, redemption repurposed, maker missioned, as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller to power, now America's intelligence officer, leading with the last, forging with the first, standing alone together on our tier trail to rescue the republic and restore America's godliness. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Glad to be with you. Lots going on. See Hi Kopman there. Howdy. SQPT Enforcer and somebody coming up on X today. Heather there and Joe as well. Welcome. So this is breaking IDF rape vid Shatters Zionism Zeitgeist. And also ERIKA'S VP hair caress look familiar. Israel's protest for IDF right to rape. Trump's Torah crown, why Israel first. And then our guest is Nicholas HULSCHER, Moderna's new kill shot. And he will be hopefully with us shortly. So lots to get into, but before we get there, remember to go to teamamerica.com and get your great Stay Brewed coffee or staybrewed.com. Ours came in earlier. This is Minuteman. And so it's labeled that when it was made. It's really fresh. Whole bean. It says sweet notes with smoky pipe tobacco flavor. Something I really love. Great stuff. And we wait for it every month to get it. So make sure you go to teamamericacoffee.com to get your Team America coffee, 20% discount there. Or you can go to staybrewed.com for other versions of that as well. Try and go to patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather and support the show there at the $5, $15, or $25 level. Also, you can go to jeffreyprather.locals.com. Some folks do both. I don't even recommend that, but sometimes I can't post something on one or the other channels. So I appreciate that, and sometimes it actually helps. You can go to mehanmd.com and get a discount as well. That's my doc who took over the practice when Dr. Meehan passed, Terry Lakin, great Army Patriot colonel who would not agree that Obama was commander-in-chief because of the birth certificate and went to Leavenworth for it. Somebody also the other day was trying to order Jace and looking for the promo code. So maybe you don't see the banners, but it's jeffreyprather.com Jace. Click on that. It'll take you to the promo site there as well. And you can go to Heaven's Harvest code JP15, heavensharvest.com code JP15 for 15% off to get your emergency survival food and your non-GMO seeds. They work great. You can go to the jeffreyprather.com shop, get your hypochlorous spray. All my gals are sick right now, except for me. So highly recommend that stuff. Kills all kinds of stuff. Also, go and get your Faraday bags. They've really made them even better. It's not Velcro here; it's magnets right here. They're really strong and nice. That really click nicely there. So we have all of those. You need to be able to bag up when you're with Team America, where you don't want to be followed everywhere you are going. So let's get into this. So top IDF legal chief Yifat Tomer Yerushalami resigned and went missing for several hours on Sunday after admitting she authorized the leak of a classified video showing IDF soldiers raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees. She was found safe a couple hours later. She's come under intense backlash. So I think she was running for her life because, of course, the Israelis have a long history of suiciding anybody from Virginia Giuffre to of course, Jeffrey Epstein. And the Israeli soldiers who sodomized this prisoner, and you can see the video, it's everywhere, with some other soldiers holding up shields, and they sodomized them with billy clubs, is internally damaged. So they gang raped this detainee, and they're bragging about it. They are saying that we will prevail, and the investigation looks like a sham. There's actually been Israeli pro right to rape Palestinian demonstrations in Israel. This is the moral attitude there. I can't even imagine that in America, even with the leftists saying that. And the victim of Israel's gang rape on film was so violently raped that they exploded his intestines and ruptured his rectum. He underwent 20 surgical operations, including a colostomy and urostomy, and is still suffering medical complications until now. That's real serious when you're when those areas get ruptured. That's why male homosexuals have so many problems. So the IDF top lawyer who opened a sham investigation into this incident a year ago has just been fined, disgraced, and detained herself, now being investigated. Her only reason for launching a probe into this rape incident, out of hundreds of others that were never investigated that she covered up, is it was caught on camera and released to the ICC. And so she started her investigation to prevent the ICC, the International Criminal Court, from intervening. So initially I said she was a hero. She is not really a hero. She is in on it, has no moral courage, no real morals here. And that's what's exactly what is happening with many, many American Christian Zionists that are attacking me, attacking Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Mark Levine is one of them doing that. Many, many like that. So, also, so Ben Shapiro as well. He's Israel First as well. And these Israeli soldiers who raped this and sodomized this Palestinian detainee and others likely show no remorse at all. And the prosecutor who dared to investigate them has been detained and fired. And these guys are taking their masks off. They're showing themselves off. They are saying that God recognizes their right to rape. They're trying to pass a law that Palestinian detainees may be executed, including children. This is Zionism, which is tied to Nazism. This is not Judaism. And what's really important here is this breaking this IDF rape vid is shattering the Zionism Zeitgeist. So Zeitgeist, in case you don't know, is a German word meaning the age of an era, of a way of thinking. And what that is American Christian Zionism in America. And of course, Zionism exists in Israel. Not all Israelis are Zionists. A lot of Israelis are against the Likud government. They're against all of that. There are Orthodox rabbis who are against saying that Israel is the Jewish state. They've been prosecuted as well. I've showed you those films. And right now, of course, I can't show you films because of our house fire. So I'm doing this on a laptop. I don't have my big cockpit where I have two screens where I could show you stuff. So you got to be patient with me. The house is coming right along, doing well, but all my gals are real sick right now. So understand this is the corruption. This is what I've talked about many times, is Israel has an inordinate amount of pedophilia going on. And this biblical heresy of still thinking that Israel are the chosen peoples and the state of Israel is special is totally incorrect theology pushed by Darby and the Schofield Bible. But it is still very prevalent. But this video is finally shattering that. And especially by their reaction, there's just really no way to justify it. There's no remorse. There's no repentance. There's, yeah, we raped him. We should be able to rape him. We're going to rape him some more. And then we're going to kill him because they are goyim. They are inferior to the Jewish people. They have lower souls is how they look at this. So this Yair Golan or this Tomer Jerusalemi was subjected to the same incitement that was directed against the former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was assassinated by far-right Jewish extremist Yigal Amir in 1995, 30 years ago this week, which many people think Bibi Netanyahu was behind that assassination. And then, of course, it's the same method of labeling people traitors, encouraging political violence. And if you criticize Israel, it is anti-Semitism. Again, as I've said many times, they're not even Semitic. They're Ashkenazis. They're Ashkenazis, Nazis, actually. But Semitic is for anyone from the region, including Arabs, including Coptic Christians as well. But this incident is really the inflection point, I think, for the turn away from American Christian Zionism and false biblical heresy, which again has been made very, very clear by Yeshua in the vineyard stories in all the three synoptic gospels, that when you kill the son, you lose the vineyard. Vineyard goes to somebody else. They are not special. And you should get out of those. And if you are with churches that buy that, then you should get out of those. I remember I was doing a speech in Texas at a big Zionist church, and I said, hey, respectfully, I'm going to talk against this. And they were not too open to hearing that. She's been on, Tomer Yerushalami has been on leave from the IDF since the criminal investigation was launched by police last week. But really, they're investigating her for leaking the video. And so we've seen this over and over now. People who leaked classified videos to tell the truth become the criminals. So if you haven't seen it, they've got all these detainees laying down, and nobody's moving, and there's nobody's moving because if they move, they're going to get beaten or shot. That's clear. They pick one up, bring them over to a corner. A bunch of IDF guys hold up their shields. And there's a dog right there, canine, and they are sodomizing him with a billy club or a stun gun or something. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And I've taught a lot of ladies fight back, is you think rape is just the act of sex. That's not true. Lots of rapists are impotent. And so they'll use screwdrivers, knives, pool cues, bottles, all kinds of things. But earlier this year, military prosecutors filed an indictment against the 5 reserve soldiers for the abuse. According to the indictment, the 5 soldiers severely beat and assaulted the prisoner, leaving with severe injuries, including broken ribs, internal tears in his rectum, and as I said, much worse than that. But it looks like they are not going to have any real serious punishment. and 65% of Israelis polled are in favor of the soldiers. So this is not a Christian culture based country. This is a Zionist based country. And there is a huge difference. And if you're supporting that, then you really aren't a Christian. A lot of American Christians say, hey, we got to help build the third temple because that speeds up the fall of the third temple and speeds up Yeshua returning. Yeshua does not need any help returning, and you should not be helping what is anti-Christic. Of course, Yeshua is not in favor of building a third temple. We are the tabernacle. That was the whole point. So when you're doing that, you're participating in anti-Christic activities, and so you shouldn't call yourself a Christian then, if that is the case. So these 5 suspects, just as this sodomy vid goes viral, the FBI all of a sudden bust Muslims targeting LGBTQ in Michigan. What a coincidence. Of course, they never see any problems with Israel spying on us. But over the Halloween weekend in Dearborn, Michigan, which of course is Muslim headquarters in America, Kash Patel announces the arrest of a Michigan Halloween attack plot. And of course, it is those Muslims again. Of course, we all know that almost every of, I think, 17 or 18 of the FBI Muslim plots where they found some hapless Muslim teens, provided them fake explosives, fake targets, and then arrest them and then say, hey, we've wrapped up terrorism. And this is exactly what this is again today. And Attorney General Pam Bondi has released details. Of course, no details of Epstein, no details of Butler, no details of Charlie Kirk, but they're going to release these details. Why? Because this is the dangle. This is where you are supposed to look. And it is ridiculous. And if you're buying this, then you deserve the country you get. But the criminal complaint by Special Agent Nicholas Check says all 5 people regularly communicated with each other and with others who had knowledge of a possible attack plans. So what does that mean? They're thinking about it. So this is the thought police. On October 31st, pursuant to federal search warrants, agents recovered, among other things, 3 AR-style rifles, 2 shotguns, 4 handguns, more than 1,600 rounds of ammunition with 3 AR-style rifles. They already said that. Optical sights. So what? That's any veteran or any gun guy is going to have all of that. A flash suppressor that's on the standard on every tactical vest, other related firearms. And so our newly unsealed complaint reveals a major ISIS-linked terror plot with multiple subjects arrested at Eastern Division. So I haven't heard anything about an ISIS terror plot. I've seen some guys with some guns. And so what is there to this? Nothing. Nothing at all. This is another setup. According to the FBI, encrypted online messages exchanged between July and October revealed that the 2 referred to by others as brothers were planning an assault on behalf of the ISIS terrorist group, and identified a third man, Majed Mahmoud, as a co-conspirator. So very vague. I don't see how that's going to fly, but it doesn't have to fly. It's designed to dangle, to be a distraction at the time where Israel is looking even worse all the time. High Cropman says, "Hope your gals get well soon." Yeah, they're on the mend. They're getting there as well. And just for good measure, I saw this. Antifa claims responsibility for a firebomb attack in Germany on a German politician's car and issues a warning. Hey, all you damn MAGA freaks will follow Kirk to hell. So let's get this straight. Antifa does come out of Germany. It's Adam Waffen gang. That's history for sure. Is attempting to firebomb a politician's car. It was set on fire, rather. I don't even know if it was actually a bomb. And then they posted on an Antifa network that they were responsible for it. And who were they targeting? They were targeting MAGA freaks and Charlie Kirk. MAGA freaks will follow Charlie Kirk to hell. So isn't that kind of weird that MAGA is Make America Great Again? Why are German Antifa guys targeting a German politician to talk about America? And why are they talking about Charlie Kirk? It doesn't make any sense. And usually this is their low profile fifth generational warfare tactics. But it does make sense if you want to distract from this sodomy IDF video that is shaking the image of Zionism around the world. And it's not revealing Antifa as connected to the government in America. It's in Germany. So this looks to me like part of the global cabal, this coming out at the same time. It certainly makes sense to me. Give me some of that. They are confused. No, I don't think they're confused at all. Like I said, I think they are doing this to distract away from Israel. If you look at the mainstream media, which I don't even bother watching anymore, you're not going to hear anything about any of this on the mainstream media. So what you're going to hear about, the FBI is busting another Muslim terrorist group against LGBTQ, and Antifa is going after some MAGA freaks and Charlie Kirkers in Germany. So, that's sarcasm. Okay. DeFlavius, thank you, Major, for your years of service and dedication to help us restore a fallen republic. You are most welcome. We are making progress. And that's really important to note here, too, is Team America, who's very active. We are constantly running information influence operations, and one of which is really pushing the truth about Israel. And we are seeing great success with this. Earl Jackson, Dave Hodges was on John B. Wells last night and said that Charlie was wanting to look into money laundering through TPSA via the Mossad. Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't done a Wells show in a long time. Man, that's a long time ago. I've done him. I think I've done just about everybody, but I haven't been on his show in a long time. But yeah, I agree with that as well. So the group statement was für Grube, I can't speak German. Fiery greetings to the accused imprisoned underground Antifas. Claim responsibility for destroying Bauman's vehicle with incendiary device. Then all you damn MAGA freaks, you will follow Charlie Kirk to hell. The message appeared to reference the recent assassination of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, drawing a connection between American conservative politics and the German right, which of course makes no real sense, except to say that the FBI won't investigate that because they won't investigate in Germany. Although the FBI investigates overseas all the time, this, to my mind, is a clear distraction. That'd be a good show. Well, ask him to have me back on. I'm happy to do guest. Antifa lost the White House. Yes, Antifa.com no longer goes to whitehouse.gov. I've talked about that quite a bit. But again, I want to emphasize how important of an inflection point this is with this sodomy video shattering the Zionist myth and heresy, biblical heresy, that Israel is special and they're better and they're moral. They are, if anything, much less. Like I said, I can't even imagine Americans demonstrating for pro-rape, although they certainly demonstrate for killing children all the time. But why is this happening? Well, this is because of Trump's TORAH crown. And that was my new intro that I just wrote before the show. And I think this really upsets people. Um, and somebody, one of my patrons on Patreon, said a while back, "So you really don't like Trump, do you?" I'm like, so no. When Trump covers up for Epstein raping children, and for the IDF and Mossad raping children, um, and doing all kinds of other crimes, no, I do not like him. How can you like him for that? And really, this is like somebody. This is like a wife who sees a dad abusing a daughter and won't do anything about it to preserve the marriage. It's enabling. And I think there are a lot of Trump supporters like that. And I'm sure you're going to get mad at me for saying that as well, but that's okay. But you should know that in 2024, Trump was presented with a silver Torah crown, referred to as a Keter Jerusalem, crown of Jerusalem. So, who gets a crown of Jerusalem? The king, or the Messiah, the savior of Jerusalem, by the Israeli Heritage Foundation during a dinner event at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, in 2023. The crown was inscribed with the words, "Give thanks to Hashem, for he is good, for his kindness endures forever," presented to President Donald Trump for his extraordinary and heroic efforts to help the state of Israel and the Jewish people. He and his family should be blessed eternally. This was attended by 150 Orthodox Jewish leaders, a lot of them from Israel. David Katz, the organization's executive director, and Joseph Frager, the executive vice president, jointly presented the award. The crown was displayed in a glass box. The gesture was framed as an expression of gratitude. Well, there's a lot of ways to say thank you, but to give him a crown is to crown him. And of course, that was what my intro was about. So in Messianic thought, the idea of a crown is more directly linked to the future king, the Mashiach. According to the prophet Zechariah, the Mashiach, is referred to as the branch, and a ceremonial crown was to be placed on Joshua's head as a sign of the futuristic messianic leadership. Of course, somebody already pointed this out. If you're in the chaplaincy and you work on opening the crown energy center, that's the true crown. Just like the eye is the lamp of the body. But of course, they're not thinking about any of that as well. So, but making him a political Messiah goes right along with ancient Jewish mistaken theology and modern mistaken in the Jewish theology. And that's what the hard right is all about. And they want to make greater Israel, and then they want all the other countries to come after them because God's going to save them. And they also want to destroy America. So I put a lot of stuff on X today talking about that, and I'll try and get some people who are more expert in that. That is why Israel is so much behind so many of the bioweapons released, and maybe we can talk about that with our guest as well. But this is the hard truth about Trump, and you just can't rely on Trump as your hero savior. He's going to do everything. You got to get off your couch, get off your butt, and get involved. What can you do? Join Team America. Go to jeffreypither.com, join Team America. Spiritually, join the chaplaincy, christchaplaincy.com. There. You can also attend initiation cycles, and you can join other stuff than my stuff as well. But Rabbi Berger emphasized the importance of preparing a crown for the Messiah as a symbolic act of faith, believing the era of waiting for the Messiah has ended. And so this goes back to the red heifers as well, and why Trump had a menorah presented to him, and why he had a replica of the Ark of the Covenant at Mar-a-Lago as well. And they have an idea that when the Messiah comes, the world will be transformed, and the crown of the Torah will be fully realized. And that's only for them. That is not for anyone else. So the crown of the Torah is also I was asking my wife, hey, have you ever heard of this? Because she was raised Jewish. She's like, no. There are also crowns on the Torah scrolls, metallic silver or gold metallic pieces on each end of the scrolls. But the Torah crown for the Messiah is not necessarily a physical crown. And that's important to understand. And it says here, in summary, while physical crowns on Torah scrolls are acts of honor and symbolism, the idea of a crown for the Messiah is a spiritual and messianic concept representing the future restoration of the Davidic dynasty and the ultimate fulfillment of divine sovereignty through the Messiah. So that then says, well, why is Trump getting that? And because he would have to be Jewish. And there are a lot of people who say that Trump has converted and Trump has a rabbi and Trump studies the Kabbalah, which is the mystical path for Jews. So what I'm saying is that as I look at all of the evidence and actions, then this is what I see. It's not what I want to see, but it is what I see regardless. And so you've got to face those realities. And before I get to my guest, I also want to hit my other major point there, which is ERIKA'S VP hair caress looks familiar. So I've also taken a lot of flack for this, and that's okay too. I'm okay with losing more viewers because I've always promised to tell you the truth. But initially, when she was wearing her little see-through sleeve thing, I was like, that's not really appropriate. I got a lot of feedback, negative feedback on that. And initially, I was very moved by her. I'm certainly moved by Charlie. Charlie changed me. I tearfully admitted that. But when she's on stage in her black tight leather pants, and then she runs her hands through Vance's hair, and he puts his hands on her hips. That is not the way you appropriately, a widow with a mother of two, who is a Christian, presents herself. That is inappropriate. That would be inappropriate. And I have all admitted my sins in the past. I had affairs. I was divorced. Now I have repented. I've confessed all that before, but I know what intimacy looks like, and that connotes prior intimacy without a doubt. Again, you don't want to hear this, but this is the truth, and I'm going to give you the truth. What I do when I don't do many speeches anymore, but when I do, I take my family with me. So my wife and my little girls are right there. My 11-year-old, my 15, they're watching every move I make. And when people hug me or do photos with me, I do the Keanu Reeves thing. I just don't touch them. I don't make physical contact, or I'm like this. I'm not touching anybody, because I've been accused. Remember, I was accused so much, back in the day. So this is really inappropriate. But my question though is, where have you seen this before? And I referenced this earlier. You've seen this before with Pedo Joe fondling children in public. You saw this with Obama going up and kissing guys' wives and girlfriends, with Bergdahl's parents, putting his hand on the wife's rump as they walked away, just rubbing it in our faces, because that's part of the adrenaline flow for them to flaunt it. It's like the U.S. gymnastics coach who was fingering little gymnastics girls on YouTube and flaunting it. It's part of their obsession. And that's what I see this as. And now we're seeing this Bryn Hollyhan come out. He's all pro-Israel, and doesn't hold a candle to Charlie Kirk. And everybody's going right along with it. Eric Trump is going right along with the FBI lie, ridiculousness. Erika Kirk is going right along with it. Nobody is saying anything at all about that. And so I'm going to speak up and tell you So that's real important. And I know that's a lot of people who want to think the best of her. I did too. But that's why I think this is happening. Um, because they're not the answer. We are. God has a plan, us, as I said at the beginning of the show. But I want to get to my guest here. I've had Dr. McCullough on many times. We're friends. We've done speeches together. I know he's a man of faith privately because I've seen him privately, even though he doesn't like to talk about that publicly very much. But my guest is a member of the McCullough Foundation. He's an epidemiologist. I guess he's a Master of Public Health, MPH, I think is his degree. We'll ask him about that here in a second. But he's been talking about the new Moderna's next generation mRNA next spike, which means violent death in Latin. I've forgotten my Latin, but I'm sure he will tell us all about that. Nicholas, thanks for your patience and welcome to the Prather Point.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for getting in last minute. I kind of threw that at you last minute. I really appreciate you fitting me in.
Well, I'd love to come on your show. I've never been on and I'm a big fan.
Oh, really? Well, wow. Thank you. First of all, MPH is Master of Public Health. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Are you also an epidemiologist as well?
Yes, I'm an epidemiologist. My training, my specialization for that master's in public health was in epidemiology, and I'm currently working as an epidemiologist at the McCullough Foundation.
And you, like Dr. McCullough and like me, you get slammed and criticized quite a lot because you were showing the dangers of these so-called vaccines that are really bioweapons for a long time. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I've been under nuclear attack ever since the first study I ever did, which was at the University of Michigan School of Public Health. Very, very left-leaning, very closed-minded for vaccine harms. This actually all started when I needed to do an internship, a research project, and I actually obtained an internship with Dr. Peter McCullough, and we investigated all the published autopsies after COVID vaccination and what those found, and we turned that into what's called a systematic review study, where we literally collected all of the published autopsy reports with COVID vaccines as an exposure. And we proved that there is indeed a causal link between COVID-19 vaccination and death. And so I was presenting that at University of Michigan, getting backlash, warned I would never have a career by my own professors. And many of my own fellow students would attack me. They would say what I'm doing is wrong. So, yeah. And then ever since, every time we publish a study that shows pretty catastrophic harms, we do come under immense attack from both the pharmaceutical industry, or what we call the biopharmaceutical complex, as well as what we call the journal cartel.
Yeah, the Lancet and all of those. Very familiar with that as well. But you've also, as you've continued to amass your research, you've come out with some very alarming and dramatic findings about autism as well, correct?
Yes, and that just came out. We put that study out about a week ago, last Monday. We were working on it's actually the most comprehensive analysis to date on the possible causes of autism. The last real report was from the Institute of Medicine in 2004. There's been a few books and some theses in the past few years, but there's been no really wide scale report on what's called the determinants of autism. And so we set out to do that. We received a grant from the BioEcho Foundation, and then we went on, and we took many months to find what is in the peer-reviewed literature right now regarding what's causing autism. And we identified that autism is indeed a multifactorial disorder, right? And many things can contribute, such as, parental age, right? Older parents, siblings with autism, some common genetic variants, um, microbiome and gut brain axis alterations, in utero drug exposures. And so we looked at all of that, but then we came to what's called compound childhood vaccination. And we were able to compare all of these risks together and see, well, which one's contributing the most? Because we have to remember the propagation and skyrocketing of autism cases began right after the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, where vaccine makers got full liability protection. And so that's when the number of doses that children received at young ages drastically increased. And it increased in concert with the autism cases, where it went from 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 in the 70s, now up to 1 in 31, which is very worrisome. 1 in 12 boys in highly vaccinated California. 26.7% of these have profound autism, right? So it's not just due to increased screening. These people, they need 24/7 daily care. They can't use the toilet themselves. So this is a very dangerous situation as it continues to increase. And so when looking at all the risk factors combined, it was undeniable that early timed, so getting vaccines at a less than 2 years old, and compound vaccination, 32 doses now by age 2, are the most significant modifiable risk factor for autism spectrum disorder.
That's stunning. And I mean, to go to 1 to 31 in what, 2 decades, was it? Is that the time frame?
Yeah, well, I would say yeah, really started the increase in about 4 decades ago. Really in the 80s, it kind of began to start piping up, and then it began to accelerate, and it accelerated perfectly in line with the acceleration of the childhood vaccine schedule, because children, they used to get only a few doses, right? Like
Right.
7 vaccines in the 70s, and then these vaccine makers get full protection, and then they roll out 32 of them, and none of them were properly tested for autism outcomes, for neurodevelopmental outcomes. None of them were ever tested for that. And so it's quite obvious. And we have to remember, all the studies that claim no association, they're fatally flawed because they don't have unvaccinated control groups. So you really can't even assess the true risk in those studies. But in the 12 studies, and we include that in our major report, that do have an unvaccinated control group, all 12 of them found the unvaccinated are far healthier in all health outcomes, including less risk of autism, less risk of chronic disease, less risk of asthma, less risk of any other neurodevelopmental disorders, tics, ADHD. So the evidence is quite undeniable at this point in time.
And and so there, I know you and Dr. McCullough are very careful about jumping to any conclusions, but I've said this is, and of course, and I do competitive intelligence in the genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology space, the GRIN space. So I see a lot of this. I see tens of thousands of pages for my clients who are the good guys, not big pharma, see ya. But there's views that this is, and I ascribe to this, that this is a government, DARPA, BARDA directed effort, which is really democide. When the government tries to kill its own people, part of that is depopulation for repopulation with the illegals coming in. Part of that is in sync with Israel's plan to rule the world. And then part of it is simply big pharma acting like drug dealers and making more monies. So those are like the three major prongs of that. And I don't know if you want to comment on any of those or not, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about them.
Yeah, there are. I'll comment on. So there are definitely what's called population control operations that about 40% of governments around the world do employ. This is all open on the internet. Like it's not a conspiracy. So many countries do seek policies and actions to reduce the birth rates in their country. They want less population size. So, and we know obviously people like Bill Gates. I mean, he said he wanted to reduce the world's population by about 15% using vaccines in a 2010 TED talk, right? So, I mean, it's not hidden. They do declare that that's the stated goal. These individuals believe there's too many people on the planet, and thus they would like to reduce that. Now, I think more playing more into that is the mRNA injections. Those were much more severe, caused much more deaths and serious adverse events than any of these other vaccines ever did. But what the childhood vaccination schedule did specifically was induce chronic disease in a large number of people. Now, over 50% of kids have at least one chronic disease. The recent Henry Ford study, largest vaccinated versus unvaccinated study ever done, that study found that 57% of children who are vaccinated will develop chronic disease. Only 17% of the unvaccinated will develop chronic disease. So they have unleashed this irreversible sickness and these long term health problems among our children. And that plays into the part of making money, where they will be able to forever use these children and provide them drugs for their ADHD, provide them drugs for their asthma, put them on a subscription service that won't even heal their problem, won't fix their problem, will just treat the symptoms. And so that's where I think the childhood vaccination plays in. But either way, both of those mechanisms of purpose are very disturbing.
Yeah, that's how I look at it as a former DEA agent. These are just dopers. These are just narcos, and they want you addicted. They want you coming back until you die, and then they want your kids coming back. Um, so that's what you mean by the CDC child death records indicate a catastrophic transgenerational harm of mass mRNA vaccination. But what do you mean by a teratogenic signal? What is that?
So a teratogenic signal means when a woman is pregnant, and say they drink alcohol, for example, that's a teratogen. It harms the developing fetus. So that's basically what that means. So these mRNA injections, based on the CDC data, um, have shown to be extremely, extremely harmful. And I say that because so infant mortality rates were decreasing for 30 years at a constant pace. There was no increases for 30 years. In 2021, right when they rolled out the mRNA injections, right when they rolled it out, and I mean a month after, the infant mortality rate completely reversed from going down to spiking way up. And it has not gone down since. So, ever since all the childbearing age women were injected with these gene transfer products, the babies have been dying at a 77% excess rate. And that continues to go up. Even Mississippi declared a public health emergency because their infant mortality rate is so high now. And so this is a very serious situation. And we can explain it by these mothers taking the mRNA. It appears that there's two mechanisms of harm to the baby. Like we mentioned, teratogenic. So when they are pregnant and they take it, the mRNA goes through the placenta into the fetus, and the baby begins to produce these non human toxic spike proteins and other frame shifted proteins. So that's the teratogenic effect, and that's very harmful. But the other effect is what's called transgenerational, where the mother was injected years earlier, 2 years, maybe a year before they got pregnant. But the material, the genetic material, was still in that mother. It appears it does indeed uh, integrate into some individuals' genomes, and that can pass off into offspring. And so when we say transgenerational, it means that that mRNA material from years earlier is transferring to these offspring, to these babies years later. And so this is an absolute disaster. And it explains why all these babies, all of a sudden, they're born. And the reasons they're dying from in excess are the very same causes seen in the vaccinated adults: cardiovascular, neurological, in septic causes. So their immune systems aren't working. So I mean, this is really truly a public health emergency, and it needs all hands on deck. But our government's not doing a thing about it.
Earl Jackson on X says they knew since 2013 that lipid nanoparticles target steroid-rich organs like ovaries and testes.
Yeah, yeah, they do. They do. That was outlined and found out in the animal biodistribution studies, Pfizer's and Moderna's. They did that before they rolled these out onto humans, and they found when they injected it intramuscularly into these animals, it would go to every single organ system with a particular preference for the reproductive systems, to the ovaries, to the testes. But it also goes everywhere else. It goes to the heart, to the brain, to the bone marrow, to the spleen. It goes everywhere. And so, despite that data that they had, they didn't bother to test it in humans, and they rolled it out for the entire world, basically. And so, yeah, that's very worrisome. And we also have data now that shows these reproductive harms in humans. There's a study by Manichi and colleagues that found there was over 1 million people in this study. They compared the vaccinated women to the unvaccinated, and the vaccinated women had 33% lower successful conception rates. So they were not getting pregnant very easily, probably due to ovarian reserve destruction, which was found in a study by Karaman and colleagues this year. They injected rats with mRNA. It destroyed 60% of their primordial follicles, which is the non renewable egg supply in women. It does not regenerate. And so you wipe out 60% of that base egg supply. Good luck getting pregnant. It's going to be much harder. So, yeah, this also plays into the fact that these appear to be sterilization injections and population reduction injections.
Sterilization. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, because it's wiping out their fertility potential. I mean, it's literally, 60%, and that's not going to regenerate. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to get pregnant with that 1 million-person study with the 33% lower successful pregnancies. It's seen now in human now in the birth rates worldwide, which are at an all-time low. I mean, they're just tanking down. Nobody's having babies anymore. Many of which because they cannot have babies anymore. It's not successful. They've received too many of these gene transfer products.
And on your X account, which is your name, Nicholas HULSCHER, MPH, you reference a new analysis of CDC data by ethical skeptics shows children born following mass mRNA vaccinations of mothers are dying at 77% excess rate. I seem to remember, but cannot find, there was a test study and all of the mothers lost their babies. Do you recall that anywhere, or do I have that wrong?
There was a New England Journal of Medicine study that claimed there was no signal for miscarriages in the vaccinated.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, they claim that, but they manipulated the data. And the true number was, I believe, over 70% of the vaccinated had a miscarriage based on that study, because they manipulated the cutoff times. They they looked at miscarriages before when miscarriages, so before the end point of when miscarriages can happen. They put the cutoff point like months before. So all these miscarriages still would happen, in the months following that cutoff point. And so, yeah, the real number was, 70% higher than that. So that's what also reveals that they use fraudulent data, and they manipulated the data, which then, due to that illegal data manipulation, resulted in all these mothers getting these injections, right? So that is grounds for criminal prosecution for those researchers involved in that.
Well, and I think that's what the Russians would like to do in the International Criminal Court, and they've named Biden and Obama. On this, Obama going over in '95 with Senator Lugar to set up the biolabs in Ukraine, and having looked at, again, tens of thousands of documents over a decade, I haven't seen one successful mRNA usage anywhere in anything. Do I have that right?
You have that right. There's not been one successful instance of this disastrous platform. They've tried it for RSV for babies. They stopped that trial because it was too dangerous. It was hurting the children, and it was increasing the risk of RSV. They're trying it for cancer, which now they claim like 100% success rate. So that's a bunch of nonsense. It's going to be just as dangerous for all these other illnesses as it was for COVID-19. And so I say that because of just how it works. And we uncovered what mRNA technology does molecularly to individuals. And this, we had a peer-reviewed paper. It was accepted for publication now. It'll appear in PubMed.gov within a month. And
Wow.
so what happens is we found that in those who were injured after the mRNA shots, thousands of gene expressions become dysregulated. So genes, tell your body, tell you what's called your ribosomes to make proteins to function properly. So with thousands of these genes dysfunctional, they will not be giving the right message. And sometimes they won't be giving the message needed at all to make proper proteins. And so what happens then is you have what's called these aberrant proteins, or proteins then will start to be produced that are dysfunctional and pathogenic. And you will have cancer surveillance systems turned off, what's called P53 and BRCA. These are essential for ensuring there's no cancerous activity in the body. Those were literally turned off in these individuals, explaining why they had all these cancers. Genes related to mitochondrial function were literally turned off as well. So their mitochondria was not functioning as it should be. What's called the electron transport chain complex 1 was severely dysfunctional. And then we also had genes related in general to just immune function. They had severely suppressed immune systems, indicative of VADES. And so this was all very shocking to us. And we compared those profiles, molecular profiles, to a unvaccinated control group. And so that's how we know that these were significantly dysregulated. And so that's going to happen with all mRNA technology, not just for COVID-19.
I said this years and years ago to my clients. I said, this is all going to fail. I looked at it all, and it's like, none of this is real. But I saw many of the big pharma companies invest millions and sometimes billions in this, and now they're really struggling. So now we see, and you just put out Moderna's next gen mRNA shot is literally named after death. The next spike, that in Latin means violent death. And Moderna is already failing. Moderna was BARDA DARPA backed. It was really behind the government, but then they went into China, which I actually changed my assessment of who our major enemies were when they went into China, I really relabeled it as the global cabal, the deep states, the DARPAs, the BARTAs, the CIA behind the governments. But tell us about that. And because all of this is failing, and less people are taking this stuff, and they're killing off their whole population anyway. Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier said everybody who takes the jab will be dead in 10 years. And that seems to be the case. So what's the plan here? And why are they doing this, and why they're still going ahead with this?
Yeah, it appears they like to name their products, or kind of tell people what they're doing, because I guess they feel then they have permission to do so, because M next spike does stand for M death spike, or next NEX does mean violent death in Latin. And so this next generation Moderna injection, it's novel. They changed what type of spike protein is produced. Now they're producing small segments of the spike protein. None of this was properly tested in humans. They just designed it on a computer screen. And they did do a few handful of tests, and it had a 2.7% serious adverse event rate. So 2.7% of the
That's high.
people, yeah, it's very high. And what's even more shocking is they compared this M death spike to the old mRNA shot. There was no real control group. And so the old mRNA shot had a 2.6% serious adverse event rate. So they're not even using placebo groups like HHS promised they would. No, they're not using those. And so that means 2.7% of those being injected with M death spike will suffer either irreversible heart damage, strokes, heart attacks, cancers, right? So it's very bad. That's a large number of people, and now they're advertising these on TV for adults over 65 without clarifying these risks. This is very dangerous. I can't believe they're allowed to be advertising this on TV and telling people to their face it's called M death spike.
Well, I think it's kind of like, if you heard my earlier show, how Pedo Joe used to fondle kids on TV, and now Erica Kirk is running her hands through. I think that it's part of the thrill for folks like that. That's at least what I think about that. But no longer, and what my analysis is, the government's no longer really backing Moderna. They're not really BARTA, DARPA, deep state classified project sponsored anymore. First of all, I don't know if you agree with that or not. But then secondly, why are they still continuing to go ahead? Because people aren't going for this, I don't think. And those that do are going to be killed off. And then thirdly, why isn't RFK doing anything about this? Is this just beyond his ken? Is he fighting battles? What say you about all that?
Yeah, it appears there's a very complex and dangerous situation going on right now in HHS. So, Dr. Stephen Hatfill appeared to have been instrumental in pulling the funding, BARDA's funding for these mRNA technologies a
And he
few
got
months
pulled.
ago. Yeah, and then he got pulled. I had him on a live stream right when he got fired, and he spilled the beans of what he thinks is happening, where the only people doing something fighting against this mRNA, and he was up there, right? He was chief medical officer of ASPR, right, which oversees BARDA and all these people. And so he was going against this mRNA cabal, and they ousted him for no real apparent reason. And so now it appears that HHS, they're weeding out all those who are actually trying to make America healthy again. And RFK, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these are still on the market. I don't know, what's going on. Is he compromised? I don't know. We would like to hear a statement on Hatfield's firing. Because we haven't heard anything, because since he was fired and since a few other people were fired, That leads us to believe that, you know, they're still compromised, and this biopharmaceutical complex is still in control.
Well, it's the same with the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ. Um, but RFK and Gabbard seem to be pushing back, more than everybody else, at least in my view. Somebody's asking, it's kind of off subject, but they're asking that this person is a massage therapist, and they didn't get jabbed, but since 21, they're having autoimmune symptoms, rheumatoid, and somebody else is saying that's shedding. So I guess that is any comments on that for detoxing that. I know I used to carry a detox package, and I think Dr. McCullough does too. But any thoughts?
Yeah, shedding is real. There's only one study that's looked. You'd think there'd be more than one study after 5 years, but there's been one study, and they found that women in close proximity to vaccinated women outside the household did suffer increased menstrual cycle abnormalities and increased bleeding. And so, what that indicates is we know that the COVID shots do impair the menstrual cycle significantly. And so, since these individuals unvaccinated were reported daily close contact to those who received it, that appears that they did indeed uh, come into contact with this genetic material or the produced spike protein from those who were vaccinated. And so there's a few mechanisms that can explain this, where there's now been multiple studies that document this. Not only does the mRNA, but the spike protein goes into breast milk. And so that indicates that it also will be in sweat, right? And also, this spike protein has been found in what's called exosomes, and these can be exhaled, right? They're kind of, think of them as little bubbles that encapsulate this spike protein. That can be exhaled, excreted through sweat or bodily fluids. And so it is entirely plausible, based on the evidence we have, that particularly if you were freshly vaccinated within a month or two, this material can shed onto other individuals.
And then, so that's like for female athletes, like on team sports or something, I guess.
Yes. If they're exchanging, sweat or other bodily fluids, or even sharing drinks, it's possible this material was shedding. But again, we really don't know the definitive answer to this because nobody's studying it. But based on what we have, we do believe this is the case.
So the fur and cleavage, I'm a layman, but when I looked at this stuff years ago, to me, the fur and cleavage clearly indicated modification. Do you concur with that, or am I wrong?
Yeah. So the spike protein for sure um, had characteristics of modifications, right? And so we do believe that for sure, all of this stuff is synthetic and man-made or modified by man. Nothing here was, came from a bat in a cave somewhere. That did not happen. And so, because this was all intentional, that opens up the door to more other serious things, such as weaponization of these products.
Gain of function.
Yeah, gain of function. Yeah, we know what they're doing now, especially what they're doing with all the other pathogens as well. We know there's over 1,000 BSL-3 and BSL-4 biolabs in the U.S. alone. We know they're in the other countries. We know they're in Ukraine. We know they're in China. They're all over. We know they're in Africa, sponsored. And the ones in Africa are sponsored literally by the Gates and Clinton foundations, which is very disturbing. And so, in all these labs, yeah, they're conducting gain of function research on bird flu. I mean, that was the big one. They're still doing that. They're making all sorts of chimeric pathogens that don't exist in nature, increasing their transmissibility an adaptation to human beings, making them more deadly to mammals, making them airborne, transmissible. And so, yeah, this is a very dangerous game they're playing. And so, right now, I'm sitting in many of these freezers in these labs. We do believe there are many pathogens, modified pathogens with pandemic potential that can be released by any bad actors.
And this is all coming out of government labs. It's not; these aren't bad guy labs. These are government. This is DARPA, BARDA stuff. This is just like the after 9/11, the white powder that was sent out 100 to 100 different labs, even that didn't ask for it. So this is democide. This is purposeful. Earl Jackson asks or mentions cells across the tree of life exchange text messages using RNA. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, so I guess RNA is, well, the messaging molecule. It's what tells your body, it gives your body the instructions to make proteins, right? And those proteins will carry out biological functions or essential functions. And so, yeah, they are kind of the messengers operating within the body. And so, yeah, they're vitally important. But when we talk about mRNA injections, that's not just messenger ribonucleic acid, it's modified messenger ribonucleic acid. And so it's been modified to be long lasting in the body. And so it's not just simple mRNA.
So they are all in on it. The deep state through the BARDA, DARPA, and working with the global cabal and other countries as well for this. And so you guys are, looks like you're making progress on getting things published finally, but it doesn't look like you've turned an inflection point. Like I'm saying, we're turning an inflection point with Israel Zionism. Would you agree with that? We're not there yet.
I think regarding the population opinion and population sentiment, we've reached the inflection point about a year or two ago regarding these mRNA injections. Actually, I want to say a month ago, a Rasmussen survey was put out. Now, 57% of U.S. voters believe the COVID shots caused mass deaths. So I think we have reached.
We have. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, but only for population opinion and civilian opinion, which is obviously important. But government wise, we're in a different situation. It appears most individuals still within the public health services are compromised or going against or trying to get more of this mRNA approved and into human arms.
And did the study say that they thought it was purposeful, it was democidal, or just that it was occurring?
That it was occurring. That it was occurring. I believe they also found it was about 30 or so percent believed. The CDC was hiding information. I believe. Don't quote me on that though. But yeah, they didn't really look at what they thought the intent was. But that would be a great. That's a great survey question that they should really add. Because that's important.
My experience is found with especially older Americans who are used to believing in the government is, oh no, that the government couldn't be killing us like that. But obviously they haven't studied history because governments down through history have killed their own people.
Yeah. Your government does not care about you, does not care about your health. And so that's why we see over and over and over and over again, all throughout history, throughout the world of, governments injuring and killing their own people. This mRNA operation is a transnational global operation, it appears, because not one government has pulled them off the market despite the mass harm and death. And so that's why, this situation it's a very, very hard one to get out of.
And I think you're estimating 640,000. That seems low to me of death.
Well, okay, so 460 70,000 to 600,000 American deaths is actually the minimum estimate, right? So it's probably higher than that, but based on the data we have, we can come up with these what I call minimum estimates, and this range was given based on that. We need more intensive study to get to the true and real number. But worldwide, there's a study by Rancourt and colleagues that found 17 million deaths from these shots as of 2023. So we're probably over 20 million for sure
Yeah.
globally.
No,
But
I've seen 22 million.
yeah, that's probably a reasonable number, but we have to remember it's not just deaths.
Right.
If fertility's been destroyed, those deaths they're not going to be replaced, right? We won't be able to replace now this lost population size, and as people also have become disabled, and we will continue to see more deaths accumulate years and years after these shots. And nobody's going to link them to the shots because it's been so far. And most of these researchers and doctors do not understand that this material lasts in the body for years. And so that's what makes it even more concerning. Nobody's looking at the what's called delayed adverse events.
One last question, and it's kind of out of your wheelhouse, but I'll ask it anyway. Is we're always looking for the civil suits to finally break through the PrEP Act and everything. I'm convinced that that's eventually going to happen, but it's a long way in coming. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the PrEP Act needs to obviously be dismantled. They should not have all this liability protection for experimental countermeasures and able to just declare these emergencies on a whim, because they will do it again. And that's very dangerous. And so, yeah, that the PrEP Act needs to be repealed. There's been a few bills filed within the past few months by some congressmen that would like to see it repealed. So there are active efforts to do so. But that's the first target. The second target is the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986. So we can also repeal the liability protections for the childhood vaccination schedule. So if both of those are out, these vaccine makers will be in a whole lot of trouble, and they will probably go bankrupt quite quickly.
I think eventually it will happen. So thanks for coming on. This has been great, especially the good news that we've turned an inflection point, 57%. That is great news to hear, and parallels what I'm saying about the inflection point about Israel as well. So what can people do to support you besides follow you on X and support the McCullough Foundation's efforts?
Yes. So if you want to support our research efforts, our educational efforts, and we have published over 25 scientific studies now in the past few years outlining, documenting these harms in peer-reviewed journals. You can go to our website, mcculloughfnd.org, and you can make a contribution. We do operate on donations from people who would like to see these changes. We're not selling any products. So you can support us there, and you can follow me on X at NIC HULSCHER. Post there every day. Also, thefocalpoints.com. That's our Substack with Dr. Peter McCullough, John Leake, and myself. We post there on the daily with in detail on all these new studies coming out.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for all that explanation, and also some good news. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so that was Nick HULSCHER with the McCullough Foundation, and really giving really good news that we have turned an inflection point. 57% realize that the vaccinations, so-called, which were really bioweapons, have harmed folk. And I think we've also turned a point, an inflection point on Zionism. So lots of good news today. So remember, we don't always win, but we always learn more in defeat. And winning is difficult, demanding, and always expensive. We can and will win if we commit. The most committed wins. So define what you're willing to fight, kill, and die for. We are behind enemy lines in our own country, against our own government. Nick made that really, really clear. The faithful versus the fakes, reset versus resistance, parents versus pedos. God is not with us, but we are with God. Tyrants always fall. Tyranny always fails. Graphene is not in our DNA, but freedom is. But freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So take it.